Hey everybody, welcome off the show, Board Game Reviews. Welcome to episode 5 of the bi-weekly vlog that's definitely going to be back on schedule now that things have kind of stabilized a little bit. Last time we did the show, we talked about different ways that you can play board games with friends across the electronic medium. This time we're going to talk about ways that you can play solo games because thanks to some really good viewers who were a little bit very persuasive, talked me into picking up a couple of Victory Point games that I am actually extremely happy I picked up. And I'm going to talk about a few of them and talk about some solo game I've been playing and also talk about some additional ways that we can continue to enjoy this wonderful hobby of ours while continuing to do the social distancing, while continuing to do all those things and enjoying the fun of this hobby without having to put everything on the literal shelves and wait till everything ends to get back to this wonderful hobby that we all greatly enjoy. First up, before I talk about those Victory Point games, I want to talk about a great opportunity I've had to actually go back and play some games that I actually never finished or never really got the chance to play because I personally am not the kind of player who plays a lot of solo games. So I hate to say this, but it's actually been really cool to actually start enjoying a whole bunch of solo games because I've never been a really big solo gamer. And I'm actually really enjoying playing games, just having a lot of fun with these games that actually play solo or play co-op or anything like that. Just having a lot of fun with these games, making my own decisions and having a heck of a lot of fun with these games. And it's even given me the chance to go back and play some games from, well, let's call it yesteryear at this point, especially with the game of Gloom Haven. Now, Gloom Haven, I've never gotten past probably maybe 20 missions in the game, and I think I'm probably pushing it just by calling 20 missions. Probably be safer to say I never got past maybe 15 missions in the game. Now, I played the game enough to enjoy it, and honestly, Gloom Haven was the game that actually made me shelf Mage Knight for quite a while. Not because I don't enjoy Mage Knight no more, far from it. I still enjoy Mage Knight quite a bit, and again, thanks to all the solo game I've been doing lately, but even getting games like Mage Knight to the table. But Gloom Haven, it's actually been a heck of a lot of fun to bring back to the table, and I'm actually working towards the wonderful, well, maybe the impossible task at this point, but the wonderful impossible task of actually trying to complete the complete campaign of Gloom Haven. Now, last time I played it, I got decently far, and thankfully for the removable stickers, I was able to start all over again. And I'm playing the Mind Thief and the Brute, which I am learning is probably an exercise in masochism, but hey, that's okay. Because while some of the fights have been, well, okay, really challenging, it's still a really fun game, and I am enjoying the game a lot. Now, the game does have a lot of Euro things about it. This is a truly inspired Euro-style adventure RPG in a box, and it's one heck of an RPG in a box that weighs, like 400 pounds or something like that. But basically, if you're not familiar with Gloom Haven and you have not been familiar with the board game hobby in the past couple of years or not following the Frosthaven campaign that's going on Kickstarter right now, what is Gloom Haven? Gloom Haven is an adventure style game where you're going to start with one of 6 different heroes. Or if you play up to 4 players, you can pick up to 4 of the 6 heroes. You're going to go through this wonderful campaign where you're going to unlock this map that connects to this adventure booklet that has, I think, maybe 95, close to 100 different adventures in it. And the decisions you make as you're progressing and the successes and the choices you make are going to affect how the countryside of Gloom Haven is going to evolve, how the dungeons are going to evolve, what you're going to explore, and eventually your heroes are going to retire, which is going to allow you to unlock other heroes. And we're not going to do major spoilers here, but you can unlock other heroes and have some interesting adventures, and no 2 players or no 2 campaigns are going to ever play out the same. Now, when I originally played Gloom Haven, I did enjoy the game, but I felt it was a little bit too Euro, especially when I was playing with friends. There are some aspects about the game that, well, I didn't think were the best. I mean, I understand where they fit in the context of the gameplay, and I thought that was kind of cool and it fit the style and the design of the game, but when it stood out as a grand adventure style game, sometimes those Euro mechanics kind of just poked me right in the eye and kind of annoyed me, but playing the game solo, I can actually kind of look past those aspects. I'm having a heck of a lot of fun with the game. So it is an entertaining game. There's some really good campaign gameplay for it, and I'm actually really excited to get the game back out. Now, I'm only a couple of ventures back into it because I've been playing some games I'm about to talk about here in just a couple minutes. Again, thank you everybody for bringing those Victory Point games to my attention. But I've been having a lot of fun with it. I'm a couple of ventures in, and my question I want to ask all of you is, since I'm only a couple of ventures in and I really don't have any heartburn about doing it, would any of you be interested in watching me doing a live playthrough of the game where either one or 2 things happen? One, I'm just going to play the adventure, upload it, and do a whole bunch of series, and at the end of every adventure, give every one of the viewers the choice to decide where I'm going to go next based on the successes I have. Now, the game is old enough now. It came out in 2017, so spoiler territory is completely gone. I don't think we need to worry about that anymore. So that was one of the things I was thinking about doing. Or the other options is anybody interested in a live play interaction where I'll play the game and let you all make the decisions for one of the heroes, or even help me influence some of the decisions. If that's something you're interested in, leave it down in the comments below. I'll be happy to look into it. I mean, that's something I'd be interested in doing, because like I said, I'm having a lot of fun doing a lot of the solo gaming. It's hard for my gaming group to get together. You know, there's complications and things we're trying to go through, but the solo gaming has actually been pretty darn awesome. So if you're interested, let me know in the comments down below. But let's go ahead and look at the real reason why I want to talk about some real cool solo gaming. First up on the list is going to be Victory Point Games' Darkest Night. Now, before we go anywhere, all these games from Victory Point Games play solo, but they also play with more players than just a solo. But I'm looking at these games as solo games right now, because that is what I've been really enjoying. Now, Victory Point Games makes some really cool solo games that I was never really aware of until they were actually brought to my attention. And the first one I want to talk about is Darkest Night. Now, Darkest Night is a game that we've kind of seen the idea of it before if we ever played Defenders of the Realm, or if you ever played Pandemic or any of those kind of games. But the basic idea is you're going to flip over a card, things are going to happen, a bad guy is going to move around the board, he's going to create blights. Well, in this case, he's going to create blights. He's going to create extra challenges for our heroes. And the eventual goal of our heroes is to defeat the Necromancer and save the land. And hooray, we all win, and all the good guys win, and we throw a big old party at the end. Except this game does it a little bit differently, because this game is brutally freaking hard. And not only is it very brutal to win, it's also one of those games where it almost feels more of a Lord of the Rings inspired versus a really super high fantasy. Because our heroes aren't going out there encountering the Necromancer every single round. No, they're running from the Necromancer, because the Necromancer finds them. He's going to kick their butt and stomp them into the ground, because our heroes are really scraping by in a land that is completely overrun and decimated by all these blights. Now, adding into this game that a couple extra things that make this game really cool and interesting is the board is really small, really compact and tight, and there's only one entire save zone on the whole board, and that is over the monastery. Now, the way the game is going to work is as the Necromancer is moving around, he's going to add blights to the board. If any location ever has 4 blights, all the extra blights are going to go to the monastery. If the monastery ever has 4 blights, guess what? Heroes have lost the game. Game over, you can't win anymore. And it can happen pretty darn quick. So the game has this really interesting feel to it, because not only does it feel cramped, but the game forces the players to play more of a Lord of the Rings style game, where they're constantly hiding from the bad guy, trying to go out there and just take away or erode the assets that the bad guy has, work towards that grand goal to find a holy relic, which is eventually going to allow them to defeat this grand Necromancer. Now, adding into the really cool things that I kind of thought were really cool that are going to replay this game, if you look at these 3 stacks of huge stacks of cards right here, these are all the heroes that are available in this game. There's like nearly 30 heroes available in this game, and every hero comes with 13 cards. You're not going to gain access to all these cards. You're going to start with a couple of these cards, and as you go through the venture, you're going to start gaining more and more of the cards. But this game has, I think it's like 29 different heroes or 30 different heroes that all play really differently. So every time you play this game, you're going to pick 4 heroes. Oh, but wait, if you want to increase the difficulty, you can play with less heroes, or if you want to modify the difficulty, oh well, I'm not getting ahead of myself, but there's a whole bunch of extra rules in the rule book that allow you to adjust the difficulty and adjust how many heroes you're playing the game with. So that's another cool thing. We know there's a lot of games out there that say, nope, you have to play 4 heroes. You don't like it? Tough, too bad, play with 4 heroes, you don't have another choice. This game actually gives you the choice by modifying the difficulty, or you can play with less heroes and give yourself extra bonuses to compensate for the fact that with less heroes, the game is more challenging. So you have this game that has this amazing amount of replay because you have so many heroes to choose from. Can't use all 30 of them. You can use up to 4, or as I've been enjoying playing it, with 2 or 3 heroes, and then using the bonuses at the end of the book that give you the penalties. And I'll just flash this at you really quick so you can see how this works, because the way I'm describing it is kind of lame. But you get these optional modifiers right here. So if you play with less heroes, it creates a bonus, so you got to put a penalty in there to compensate for the fact to keep the rules balanced. So I like the fact that I can modify the game and have lots of replay about it. But another really cool thing is I like the pressure of the game because the game has quests. And as you're playing these quests, they all have their own timer. And this timer is going to be advancing based on stuff that's happening around out here. And if the timer ever goes away, you lose the quest. So if you lose the quest, the extra challenges are going to come in. So that's adding even more challenges and difficulties to the game. So Victory Point Games has this really interesting game that where you are fighting on this really cramped, tight board, fighting against this Necromancer with a very strong Lord of the Rings like oh my god, we are way outnumbered, outclassed, and really, really in trouble. We're the small little level 1 heroes up against level 20 necromancer, praying beyond all hope, from the help of the monastery, that we can defeat this grand bad guy before the whole land is completely destroyed. So I like how they put the theme together. It really is the darkest night. I love the mechanics of the game, and I've had a heck of a lot of fun with it. But this isn't a review, so I want to make sure I don't get my hype to going in here, because I want to make sure before I talk about any more of the Victory Point games, these are not reviews. These are just opinions of how much I'm enjoying these games so far, because I can count on one hand the amount of times I play these games. So this is more of a preview. And stick around for the end of the video, because you're all going to get a nice voting option at the end. But stick around to see what I'm talking about. But that's enough about Darkest Night. Let's look at the next one in the series here I picked up. Next up is Dona the Zeds. Now, Dona the Zeds is, well, it's a zombie game. And you may look at it and go, oh, another zombie game. But no, this is another one of those brutal zombie games, because this is another brutal Victory Point games. So in Dona the Zeds, this is a game where it's almost like a tower defense game, where the heroes, I'll call them heroes because this is more Walking Dead than Shaun of the Dead, because this is a brutal style game. But the heroes are trying to protect a town center while all the different zombies are working up along these little tracks. Kind of like a tower defense game where they're basically going to advance and advance and advance. Oh heck, let's just bring out how it's really going to bring. They're just going to advance on you on this town. If the zombies ever make it to the town, you lose. So what you have is you have your protectors, these civilians, the cities, and even some heroes, which going to help you do various different things by protecting the city and stopping these advancing hordes from making it to the town center and making your life a living heck. No, okay, making you chow, because they're going to dine on your brains. So what does this game do that's unique to the zombie genre? Well, first of all, it's really brutal, it's very tough, and it's very challenging. And if you don't think it's brutal and tough and challenging, this game comes in 5 different difficulties. And I'm not going to lie to you, I'm still on the wimp level. I really am still on the wimp level. I'm trying to get out of the wimp level, but I'm still stuck in the wimp level. But what this game has done is it creates this interesting zombie game where you are going to pick your level, okay, wimp level. Although, just so I can feel really, really cool about myself, I got the difficult side of the board showing so I can pretend I'm really cool. Okay, I'm pretending, because it's really the other side of the board that the wimps like me get to start on. So what you're going to do when you play this game is you're going to decide if you want to be wimp, or if you want to go for the real challenge and go after the really, really tough fight. And you're trying to protect the city and survive a scenario, because the cool thing about this game is it's a scenario-based game. You're going to pick your scenario, and you need to go through the scenario. It's going to tell you how to set the board, how to set the map and everything, and the heroes you're going to get, and you're going to work your magic and try to survive in a very true style, more like the Walking Dead style zombie game, where you have to fight for supplies. You have to do everything you can to survive while these heartless hordes of zombies are constantly marching and coming in and trying to destroy you and make your life a living heck. Or if you feel really, really masochistic, one of the players can control the zombies. Can't wait till I get to do that. Anyways, this is a game that I'm enjoying quite a bit. There's a lot of reasons why I'm actually enjoying this game so far. One, it's more of a tower defense game and a zombie style game, which I really haven't seen actually yet. I'm sure there's probably games out there to do it, but this is actually the first one I owned. I mean, I own a lot of zombie games because the zombie theme is pretty cool, and some zombie games have ended up going to the trade pile because I realized that they weren't that great. Zombie side, I kind of got bored of the game really quick, although I still enjoy some of the Flying Frog zombie games and some of the other zombie games out there are actually a lot of fun. There's even a couple of card games I enjoy themselves, but this is the one that actually is the first one that actually kind of reminds me of one of the more better zombie films or TV shows that I really enjoy, because it creates this tower defense game where the zombies are constantly marching upon you, and you have to do things like you have to go out there and get ammo. If you don't have ammo, you got to risk going hand to hand with these horrible zombies, and trust me, going hand to hand with zombies that's a good way to become brain chowder kind of food for the bad guy zombies. So you're going to go through all these different things, and your basic thing you're trying to do is just survive the event deck. If you can survive the event deck, you manage to make it to the wonderful, yes, I'm showing the wimpy ending because that's all I can make it to so far. But you get to the final ending and you get to say, hey, we survived. Let's go try the more difficult level. Okay, I really do want to try the more difficult levels eventually, but I'm having fun with it right now. So this game plays really fantastically as a solo game. I haven't had a chance to play with multiple players, but I think this is one of those games that I am probably going to have a heck of a lot of more fun playing as a solo game. or as playing a game where I am going to control the zombies versus the other players, because that is what is really looking really cool to me. So this game is by Victory Point Games. Again, this is not a full review of the game. This is just giving you an idea of the game that I've been enjoying. I've been playing it solo, and I've been having a heck of a lot of fun with it. Tower defense, Walking Dead, very challenging, and yeah, I keep saying it because I want to play the super challenging level, but so far I'm just not good enough. And finally, we have probably one of the most well-regarded Victory Point games, and that's going to be Nemos War. And after getting this game, I can understand why this game is so extremely highly regarded. And this is another game that I think I'm going to enjoy playing the most as a solo experience, and I'm having a lot of fun playing this game as a solo experience. But what is Nemos War? Well, this is basically 20,000 Leagues Underneath the Sea, where you are taking your crew, and, well, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. But before I can describe to you what you're doing, the first thing you need to do is you want to decide if you're going to go for science, go for war, go for exploration, or if you want to go for anti-imperialism. And then this is going to judge what kind of way you're going to play the game to get the victory points. Because in this game, you're going to want to get as many victory points as you can, because based on the kind of style of play of game you're going for, and based on the amount of victory points you get, that's going to tell you what kind of grand epilogue you're going to get at the end of the story. You need a lot of victory points to get the really grand victory. You need 275 or more victory points to get the grand victory. Or you can be like me and barely getting past 185 victory points, which means, yeah, I'm a failure. But hey, I'm learning. I'm trying to get better at this fairly complex game. So the basic idea of this game is you are going to seed a deck, again, based on what kind of style of gameplay you decide to play. If you're going to go for science, you're going to use 31 science cards. If you decide if you're going to go for exploration, you're going to use 31 exploration cards, and it's going to be broken down into various different acts. Now, you're going to seed this deck in a special kind of way to make sure that the game ramps up in a certain style, so you don't get very bad draws by having the very bad cards come out in the beginning and then get the easy cards at the end or something like that. So you're going to basically seed the deck in a way to make sure that it has a nice gradual progression and keeps adding to the story of the game. And your objective is you're going and exploring across the entire planet, going across all the oceans, working towards whatever motive you decide to go for to get your grand victory. You're going to encounter lots of ships. You're going to use these ships to get salvage. You're going to use the salvage to go ahead and build upgrades on your ship. And you're going to do this grand exploration, doing these searching out for these secret different locations. And the only thing you're really trying to avoid happening is having your Nemo track go all the way down, because if it does, you're defeated. Or having your crew track go all the way down, because again, you're defeated. Or having your hull go all the way down to 0. Because again, if that does, you're defeated. If you manage to avoid doing all those things and manage to get through the entire adventure deck and score enough points, you may get a good epilogue. Or you can be like me and keep playing a whole bunch and hoping you're going to get that grand epilogue. So this game is a game that, again, came really highly recommended. This was the first Victory Point game that was highly recommended to me, and I can definitely see why. This game has lots and lots of replay potential, lots of challenges, and this is a really good, difficult game. But it's a difficult game that's difficult in a really good way, because the way this game plays, you don't really feel like the game is, I hate to say the word term cheating, but you don't really feel like the game is cheating. When you play this game, you kind of look back and say, gosh, you know, if I would have done that one thing over here and did this thing over here, and if I had that one card that made me go here, and if I would have went this way instead, you can just see the way this game plays out. Now, this game is really challenging, but it's designed in a really interesting way, and I really do appreciate the fact that you can play different styles of game. You can go for a war style game where you're trying to gain victory points, because again, like I said, I think the camera will pick this up really easily, but I'll show you this on the camera. You're going to see that the way you get victory points is going to be different based on whatever kind of motive you're going for. So you see the back of this card, this is the motive card you're going to play. You see the victory point multipliers, whereas if you flip it over to the other side, you play this way, you see there's different victory point multipliers. So you're going to have to play the game differently every time you do this. And again, you're going to have different upgrades, and you're going to have a different adventure deck that you're going to randomly seed based on the kind of motive you're playing. Now, the game has a really interesting theme. It's the late 1800s. You have a lot of challenges, and there's really good, well, let me see if I can show you one of these adventure cards here. A little bit of spoilers, and it's, again, if you play the game a couple times, you'll start seeing these cards, so you understand what I'm talking about here. But all these cards have a lot of theme on it. If you look at the card right there, you see all the thematic text on it. So they did a really good job of creating this really good thematic game where you feel the theme of the game coming through, but you also feel the challenges of your decisions while you're trying to make sure that you don't have your ship crash, you don't fall into defeat, or you don't have your crew get defeated and killed and lose that way. And the game does have multiple difficulty levels. And there are different ways to play this game. And like I said, I'm enjoying playing this game solo. And I really think that's the game way I'm really enjoying it the most. But again, I'm just speaking off the top of my head because I haven't played it with other players yet. And I can imagine that there are things about this game that will make it fun with multiple players. But right now, as it stands, this game is really awesome. It's really interesting. And I'm having a heck of a lot of fun with it. The only thing I would caution some of the players out there when they're looking at Nemos War, this game does use dice, and you're going to roll against a random chart, which you can see over here. And you're basically looking for a target number. And the basic way to break this down is roll high, life is good. Roll low, life is not as good. So basically, if you roll 7 or higher, generally things may go in your favor. Look at this chart, not always. If you roll really low, like 5 or less, things are going to go pretty bad for you. And if you ever roll snake eyes, life is going to get pretty darn miserable for you. So the dice can be a little bit random, but the way the game is going to play out and the fact that you can actually mitigate the dice. I mean, you're not pretty much at the whims of the dice. There's actions you can do to give yourself benefits and bonuses to make sure that you have better chances with the dice rolls. There's different ways you can explore and different upgrades and different things you can do. So you don't feel like you're at the whim of the dice, but do understand that sometimes the dice are just going to hate you. But if you can appreciate that, appreciate what the game is doing, and appreciate that this is a really cool adventure style game with an awesome theme and a lot of replay with lots of challenges, you really can't go with Nemos War as a solo game. And out of all these victory point games, I can definitely see why this game is so darn highly rated. I think it's really great. Artwork by Ian O'Toole, really good design. If I had to look at all three of these games and pick the one that I think is the best, I'd be very hard pressed because I kind of do like Darkest Night just because of the theme. I like how it feels like an oppressive Lord of the Rings. But if you are somebody who likes a more modern style game, you're not going to go wrong with Nemos War. That's enough talking about solo gaming. Let's talk about the best part about gaming, and that's gaming with friends. Now, Sandy Peterson is just released the newest campaign for his Sandy Peterson's 5th edition Cthulhu Mythos RPG system that goes with the 5th edition of Dungeons & Dragons. Now, if you're not familiar with Sandy Peterson's RPG or the Cthulhu Mythos or anything like that, well, you probably have not been following with RPGs that much. But if you are familiar with his RPGs, what Sandy Peterson likes to do is he's been creating these really cool campaigns to go along with the 5th editions of Dungeons & Dragons. He has his own little source book, and I should probably be a smart person to pull up the smart source book, so hold that thought. So, in the future, I look more professional and prepared. But Sandy Peterson's 5th edition of the Dungeons & Dragons, what he's done is he's added a campaign source book that allows you to bring more of a Cthulhu Mythos feel into the 5th edition of Dungeons & Dragons. Now, I like to describe this as, okay, now I'm going to go way back here in the Wayback Machine. So when I first started playing Dungeons & Dragons, the big campaign world was Gary Gygax's Greyhawk setting. Now, the Greyhawk setting was cool. It was interesting. It had kind of this medieval European feel to it. It was pretty cool. But when the Forgotten Realms came out, it really sent the Dungeons and Dragons campaign worlds, kind of put them on the ear because it changed things up. It brought a new way to look at RPGs and look at RPG worlds. And that's really what Sandy Peterson has done with his RPG worlds. He's created a really unique spin and a take on classic 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons and created a world that, while it still has the nice feel of 5th edition, the more of the higher fantasy, he's incorporated with a little bit of a slight horror feel, a very unique world that has a couple really unique races. And these aren't races that are unique just because, okay, we instead of having +2 strength, we now have +2 constitution. He's actually created some really unique races that have some really interesting feels and really good ways to play these races. The ghouls play very interesting, and they have some really cool powers that allow them to, well, I know this is kind of a family show, so I don't want to get too much into it, but ghouls, devouring stuff, you can get the point from there. But they get special abilities from devouring corpses, and this gives them interesting things, and it's interesting how the game plays. And he incorporates this in a very cool way with all these different races and extra classes. And where I'm going with this is he actually just came out with a brand new campaign system, which is called Yig Snake Granddaddy. Now, the interesting thing about this is it's a campaign system that goes all the way from level 1 to level 5. Or, I'm sorry, the first adventure that just came out goes from level 1 to level 5, but the whole campaign system can take a party of adventures from level 1 all the way up to level 15. And I've already gone through the complete Cthulhu Mythos Ghoul Island campaign setting, And it's really interesting how he writes his campaigns. Now, he likes to write his campaigns in a, best way to describe it is they're not really hack and slash. They're kind of a very interesting mix of story-based, very thematic, very rich worlds, and very good, rich world storytelling, but they always have that dark hint of the Cthulhu mythos just way in the back, where you slowly start seeing the corruption, you start seeing how things start getting perverted, and they start falling for the influence of these dark things, and our heroes are slowly dragged into the storyline where the world is changing, and right from the beginning, what they think is going on is nowhere near as what's going on. And by the, I don't know, well, just use the Ghoul Island as a sample. By the end of the second book, the players are like going, oh yeah, this is nothing like what I thought was going on. We've gone from what we thought was just a random, okay, almost fell into spoiler territory there. I don't want to do that. But where you go from this interesting storyline where you think what is going on is definitely not what's going on. You see there's this grand overarching storyline where our heroes are basically going to be the only thing stopping a great horrible evil from entering the world and causing massive amounts of destruction. Now, Yig Snake Daddy only had the first part of the adventure, which goes from level 1 to 5. But what he's done is, again, he's created this really interesting campaign that the way it starts off doesn't really give away any major giveaways of what's going to happen. So you have this really interesting story that starts with, well, okay, this isn't much of a spoiler, but it starts with prehistoric style dinosaurs and a little bit of an interesting thing with these. So the players think something is going on, but it's nowhere near what is truly going on because there's dark evils working behind the scenes. There's secret enemies they don't know about. And again, I'm trying to avoid spoilers because I can highly recommend playing through one of these campaigns that Sandy Peterson's made. Ghoul Island is really fantastic if you get all the way through it. And Yig Snake Granddaddy is looking really, really cool already too. Again, only looking through the first through 5th level, the very first source book. But the adventure, the way it goes, is extremely awesome, and I cannot wait to run the PCs through this. So why do I bring this up? Because Fantasy Grounds is a fantastic way for all of us to get together with our friends. With Fantasy Grounds and one of these campaign settings, you can very easily, with very, very little prep, very little work, get your friends together, load up Zoom, load up Skype, load up Fantasy Grounds, and you can start playing Dungeons & Dragons with your friends pretty darn quickly. The nice thing about Fantasy Grounds, while it's compared to Roll20, it's a little bit more of a steep learning curve to learn how to get the system up and running. But once you have the system up and running, it is definitely the much more friendlier system for anybody who's trying to play Dungeons & Dragons. It's great for people who have very little experience because everything in Fantasy Grounds is pretty much drag and drop. You basically drag over your race, drag over your class, drag over everything, and you just click on the little buttons unless you do all these things. But the cool thing is that I was able to pull the complete campaign of Ghoul Island and put it into Fantasy Grounds with probably not that much work. And I'm easily able to do the same thing with Yig Snake Granddaddy. So it's kind of cool how you can get your friends together, play these really awesome campaigns with your friends, and having a heck of a lot of fun playing Dungeons & Dragons. So I just want to mention this. If you're looking at what I've talked about with these solo games and you're starting to think that you still want to play with your friends, check out these campaigns. If you've been looking into playing maybe some RPGs or Dungeons & Dragons with your friends, I can highly recommend this as a great start. Cthulhu Mythos, it's a really fun, interesting way to play Dungeons & Dragons. It's kind of an interesting take on the world. It's a nice little twist with interesting classes, interesting races that put just that perfect little spin on the classic RPG, much like Waterdeep and the Forgotten Realms did with the classic RPG systems 40 years ago or 35 years ago, bringing it and advancing it from the Greyhawk setting. Sandy Peterson has done the exact same thing, taking the classic RPG tropes that we think we know, just a little bit, add enough interest to intrigue us and want us to look more into his worlds. I just have one more thing I want to talk about before we go on to this week's poll, and I know this week's poll is one that's going to have a lot of people hopefully making lots of comments. But one more thing I want to talk about before we move on to the poll is, most of you know, if you've been around my channel for a long time, know that I'm an extremely huge fan of Hyperborea. I think Hyperborea was one of the most underappreciated games out there. It came out at a time with another game that was a bag builder, and for some reason that bag builder just took all the spotlight at that time. And I understand the reason why is because Hyperborea, when it originally was released, it came out with a rule book that was flawed, and I can appreciate how that frustrates people. And it didn't help that people were initially talking about the game and talking about the flawed version of the rulebook, not downloading the FAQ, and that made it so they didn't get to play the true version of Hyperborea. And I think if people got to do that, they would appreciate just how great of a game Hyperborea truly is. Now, why am I bringing this up? Well, I'm bringing this up because there's a company in the United States that has actually managed to get the rights to reprint the expansion for Hyperborea. That's the Light and Dark expansion. Now, this expansion has been pretty much a holy grail for anybody who enjoys Hyperborea. And Hyperborea, well, if you played it correctly. It's a game you love because it is a really good game for anybody who plays it correctly. I have never met anybody who's played the game correctly and said, no, I don't like the game. Everybody who's played the game and played by the correct rules and said, man, this is a really awesome game. What happened to it? So anyways, what I want to mention is that the expansion Light and Dark is now available up for pre-order. You can go to the Light and Dark expansion subpage on Board Game Geek and check it out and place your pre-order for it. And the reason why I mention this is because this expansion has gone for a lot of money on eBay, and this is probably a really good chance for you to pick it up on a pretty good deal. Now, I know some countries are paying a little bit more for shipping, and I can appreciate how that may frustrate some people, but I can guarantee that if you pick up this expansion, you're going to be extremely happy. I've already pre-ordered it. I am waiting for them to start hitting that print button because I cannot wait to get Hyperborea back to the table with the expansion once all this quarantine ends, because I'm just talking about it right now and I'm already jonesing wanting to play Hyperborea again. I think Hyperborea is a great game. That expansion had some really cool bits to the game, and this is probably a fantastic time to go ahead and check out that expansion. I'll try to leave a link for it down below to the pre-order site. But if I can't find the link, or if I forget, which, you know, it's late, I'm recording this video late at night after game night, but if I forget to put the link down below, just head over to the Light and Dark Board Game Geek page for Hyperborea. It's one of the threads there. I think it's up to about 8 pages now as everybody's starting to go there. Click that link, follow it, and pre-order Hyperborea. You won't be sorry. And now we get to this week's poll. Before we hit the poll, just let you know the results of the last poll, which was between Apocrypha and Warhammer Quest Blackstone Fortress. Well, it looks like due to things that are going on in the world, not much voting occurred, and both the games got the exact same amount of votes. So I'm going to go ahead and flip a coin and decide which one I'm going to record next. I'm kind of leaning towards Apocrypha unless somebody can talk me out of it as being the next game I'm going to review on the channel. Simple reason, the gameplay is great solo. It's a good game to be playing solo during the time that we have right now. But the other reason why I kind of am thinking Apocrypha first is because there's still one more expansion coming out for Warhammer Quest Blackstone Fortress, and they're actually saying it is the final expansion for the game. It's going to complete this series, much like they did with Warhammer Quest Silver Tower. They're actually announced that they're completing the series and probably won't be making any more content except for maybe stuff that's going to show up on White Dwarf. So I'm kind of thinking that I would really most prefer to, when that final expansion comes out, just check out the entire game system and discuss the entire game system at that time, do a one big giant series of videos. So I always take your feedback. If you think that's a good idea, leave comments in the YouTube comments down below. I appreciate all your comments. I really greatly take your feedback, and that's where we're going to come to this week's poll, because your feedback and your suggestions are the ones that recommended Victory Point Games. So now I get to ask you, what is the next game you want to see reviewed after the Apocrypha, Warhammer Quest, whichever one I pick next, video series to have reviewed? Do you want to see Darkest Night? Do you want to see Dona the Zeds? Or, which I'm pretty sure most of you are going to pick, and I'm okay with that, do you want to see Nemos War be the next game in the series, or the next game I'm going to record a video series for? Leave your comments down below. Whoever gives the most votes, or whichever game gets the most votes, is the one that's going to be picked. The voting will go on until this coming Saturday. Today is the 18th. Hey, let's look at my watch. Hey, yeah, it's the 18th officially. Actually, it's almost officially the 19th because it's now after midnight. So you have till this coming Saturday to get in all your votes. Whichever one of these 3 games gets the most votes, that's the one that's going to get the most attention. So now remember, there's a couple other things I'd love to get your feedback for. If you'd love to see some more solo gaming content on the channel, let me know. I understand with what's going on in the world right now, that solo gaming is something that we're all doing. But don't forget, there are options that you can still enjoy gaming with your friends. In the last vlog, I talked about ways that you can actually game with your friends through using your cameras, your cell phone as a camera, or different things you do. Check out that video if you want some suggestions. Also talked about some online gaming portals you can use. Also, if you're interested in me doing some live plays of these solo games with some interaction with the viewers, let me know that's something I want. Again, your feedback is what helps drive this channel. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoy this channel. If you have any comments or questions, make sure you leave them down in the YouTube comments down below. I'll be sure to answer them as quickly as I can. You can also feel free to email me at offtheshelfboardgamereviews. That's otsbgr@gmail.com. If you enjoy this video, click that like button, click that subscribe button. And as always, thanks for watching.